Chug-a-choo-choo, off we go. Come with me to the Storytime Express, where we are going to have another adventure today. If you look out my windows, can you guess what our theme is today? Look at this beautiful coral reef and all the beautiful fish are in it. We are talking about fish today. So let's get right into our first story, which is a big fish story. Have you ever heard your grandpa tell you he has a fish story to tell you? Well, let's see what happens with this story. This one's called Jangles, the big fish story. Okay, there's the little kid who's going to be listening to this fish story. When the sun goes down and the weather's just right, Big Lake gets smooth as glass, and a thin mist whispers across it. That's when you might catch a glimpse of Jangles. My father told me lots of stories, but my favorite was about a giant trout that he saw when he was a kid. I still remember sitting with him on the front of a big stone fireplace at a cabin. He pulled out a dirty green tackle box and shook it a couple of times so that it rattled. And then he told me this story. When I was a kid, said his grandfather, Jangles was the biggest fish anyone had ever seen or heard. That's right, you could hear Jangles. He'd broken so many fishing lines that his huge crooked jaw was covered with shiny metal lures and rusty old fish hooks of all shapes and sizes. They clinked and they clattered as he swam. That's why he was called Jangles. Jangles was so big he ate eagles from the trees that hung over the lake and a full-grown beaver that strayed too far from home. But he didn't seem to care too much for the taste of kids. In fact, people swear that one time Jangles saved a baby who fell into a lake when his family's canoe tipped over. They say that he took that baby up so gently that none of the hooks even stuck it, and he swam to shore. Supposedly, he gave the baby's mommy a dirty look, as if to say, "What are you doing bringing your precious little baby out here in that old tippy canoe?" Everyone wanted to catch Jangles. They held big tournaments with lots of prize money, but no one could ever bring him in. He was too smart and too strong, and he lived too deep down in the middle of the lake. They tried all sorts of tricks, like even using a whole turkey for bait. One fellow even tried dynamite. He threw big cans of tuna fish into the water and waited till he heard Jangles coming. Then he lit a stick of dynamite and tossed it into the lake. I don't know if it hit a rock or something, but that dynamite came flying back out of the water and into his boat and blew it to smithereens. Then he had to swim all the way back to the dock. He said Jangles came up and bumped him on his butt, but nobody believed him. One time when I was a kid about your age, said Grandfather, I was overfishing where the creek comes into the lake and my anchor came loose. I was concentrating so hard on catching a fish that I didn't notice I was drifting way out into the middle of the lake. There wasn't another soul out there and it was getting dark. Just then I realized where I was and I felt a tug on my line. Not a real big tug, but something was on the other end. I started to reel it in and it was wiggling all right, but it really didn't feel like a fish. I finally got it in and what do you know? I had snagged an old fishing rod that someone must have dropped out of a boat a long time ago. So I took that old rod and I started to reel it in. I cranked and I finally felt the end getting closer to the surface. And then I heard a sound that made my whole body feel prickly all over. It was kind of soft at first. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. But then it started to get louder. Tingle, jingle, jangle. Now I used to daydream all the time about catching Jangles, but right then I was scared to death. Just when I saw the lure on the end of the line, a gigantic shadow came out of the deep darkness and swallowed it up. My rod bent nearly in half and I was hanging on to it like it was my first dollar when Jangles suddenly swam under the boat and pulled me right over to the side into the dark, cold, black lake. Down we went like a crazy horse and buggy. Pretty soon I noticed that I could still breathe and the water wasn't really cold at all anymore. Finally, we came into a cave in the deepest part of the lake. It was decorated with parts of old boats and lots of rods and reels. "This is my home," said Jangles. "It's been a long time since I had a visitor." His voice was so low and soothing that it seemed perfectly natural that this fish was talking to me, and I wasn't afraid at all. Then Jangles told me stories, amazing, wonderful stories about the beginning of the earth before there were people, and stories about wise old redwood trees and animals that were silly and a great fish that lived before him in the big lake. It was like Jangles was my magic uncle. And after a while, I started to get sleepy, and he said, "It's time to go." He told me to hang on to the big fin on his back. I still had the old rod in my hand, and as we swam up and the water turned from black to purple, I slowly pulled out some of the line and made a bunch of long loops. And when we reached the surface, Jangles swam alongside my boat, and quick as a minnow, I hopped off the giant fish's back and threw the coils around him, and with a sharp yank, I spun him upside down. Now, you might not know this, but when you turn a fish upside down, even a big old smart fish like Jangles, it gets confused and it can hardly move. It's like it's paralyzed. "Gotcha!" I shouted. Jangles just lay there, but he could still talk. "You tricked me!" he cried. "I told you the secrets of the beginning of time, and this is how you thank me?" "You are a fish," I said, "and I have caught you." "Set me free!" Jangles urged. "I am more than a fish. I am a storyteller and a story." "A story no one's going to believe if I let you go," I replied. And then Jangles asked me, "Is that more important than doing what is right?" I thought of all the wondrous things I had heard that day, and then I thought about people dragging whole turkeys around the lake. "You're right," I said. "I'm sorry. I will set you free. What can I do to apologize?" "I swear," Jangles grinned at me with that big crooked jingly jaw of his. "Well, there is one thing you can do to help me," he said, "and it would help you also to prove that you caught old Jangles." And that's when my dad stopped telling the story, and he gave me his tackle box. It was full to the top with shiny metal lures and rusty old fish hooks of all shapes and sizes. He never told anyone about catching that giant fish. He had kept it a secret until the night he told me. And now I'm telling you. All right, boys and girls, what do you think? That's a big old fish story, isn't it? All right, so that was all about Jangles. Now let's talk about a different kind of fish, a fish that you might have at your house. Sometimes you might even earn one at the county fair, a goldfish. This one's called Fish School. Let's see what happens in this book. All right, Fish School. And on the inside of this book, if you decide to ever check this out, all of these words right here, there's over 40 different fish that you're going to be able to see in this book. So you can always refer back to this page if you wanted to know what a particular kind of fish is. Charlie got a goldfish for his birthday. He loved it more than any other present. "I am going to teach you everything I learned," he told Wishy. Swish, swish went Wishy in his bowl, so he named his goldfish Wishy. Charlie brought Wishy to school for show and tell. "Fish are my specialty," Charlie told the class. "I'm teaching Wishy like people to teach dolphins, and I am getting a tank for him." "Goldfish are freshwater fish," said Miss Finn. "They don't swim in the ocean with dolphins, and dolphins aren't fish, they're mammals. But some people say you can train a goldfish." Then Miss Finn asked who would like to go to the aquarium. Everyone wanted to go, especially Charlie. That night before the aquarium trip, Charlie said, "Wishy, I am going to teach you everything I learned at the aquarium." Swish, swish went Wishy's tail. Then an idea bubbled up in Charlie's head. "Why not?" he thought. On the way to the aquarium, Charlie imagined the bus was a school of fish. It swam past cars and besides trucks. "We're a school of fish," Charlie whispered to his backpack. "Pick a favorite part of the trip," said Miss Finn, "and we'll make picture stories back at school." Inside the aquarium, Charlie said, "Look, the fish are dancing." "The sea jellies aren't fish," said Miss Finn. "They don't have any bones or gills." "The sea jellies aren't fish," whispered Charlie. "Over here," Miss Finn said, "are freshwater fish, like your Wishy, Charlie." "Maybe this will be your favorite part," whispered Charlie. "Everyone picks his or her own favorite," said Libby. Around the corner, a tank of seawater reached up to the ceiling. "Here are the sharks, the barracudas, and the eels," Charlie whispered to his backpack, "but you make a better pet." "I'm not a pet," said Simone. "Look, some fish are in school," said Charlie. Miss Finn said, "Fish swim in schools so that they don't get gobbled up." Finally, they reached the dolphin area. "This will be our favorite part," said Charlie. "Are you talking to your backpack?" asked Simone. "What backpack?" said Charlie. Just then a dolphin jumped up and touched the bow. "Wow, cool!" When it came time to get back on the bus, no one wanted to leave. "Can we stay a little longer?" pleaded Simone. But they had to follow Miss Finn, swooping together like a school of fish, and back around the giant tank, through the freshwater galley, and past the jellies. "The dolphins were the best part," whispered Charlie. "Now who are you talking to?" said Simone. "You're not even wearing your backpack." "Yikes! Wishy was in my backpack!" cried Charlie. Uh-oh. "You brought Wishy?" Miss Finn said, astonished. "I wanted him to learn what I learned," said Charlie. "Now we can't leave," insisted Simone. "Wishy could be gobbled up by sharks." Everyone cried, "Find Wishy!" "Let's stay together," said Miss Finn, the teacher. "Like a school of fish," said Charlie. "Wishy's not by the jellies. Wishy's not by the freshwater tanks. Wishy's not by the giant ocean tank." In the dolphin arena, no one could see a backpack. "Charlie," said Simone, "I remember. I think you put it under the seat." Everyone dived under the seats. "My backpack!" hollered Charlie, coming up for air and holding Wishy. Swish, swish went Wishy in his Ziploc bag. Everyone shouted and clapped. "Wishy, you're a star!" whispered Charlie. "Wishy, you're lucky to be alive," said Miss Finn. The next day, Miss Finn said it was time to make the aquarium picture stories. "I know what was my best part," said Libby. "Me too," shouted Thomas. "So do I," said Simone. "Wishy, all the aquarium pictures are about you," whispered Charlie. Swish, swish went Wishy. Swish, swish. You'll see how all the pictures are about Wishy. And at the very end, this is a whole list of things to learn about goldfish. So if you get this book, you can read that and learn more about goldfish. So that's a different type of book than the first one, wasn't it? All right, so now, remember, down at the library, we have theme kits. All right, and this one's all about fish. Let's take a look at what's in this fish theme kit. So you have the video, The Reef. You have the Pout Pout Fish board book. Ooh, a guide to freshwater fishing. Ooh, very cool. We have a lot of freshwater lakes around here, so if you like to go fishing, you might need that. All right, so then we have this book, A Fisherman Could Wish for a Fish, Fred the Flyer Fish, Tony the Shy Little Fish, Fishing with Grandpa, Let's Go Fishing, my first awesome fishing book, Agatha May and the Anglerfish. Oh, look at this kind of fish, boys and girls. Isn't that cool? All right, then Fish Don't Sneeze. Okay, and then we have the Eyewitness. This would be our nonfiction book, all about fish. And then we have our Rainbow Fish, of course, very famous book. And you get a fish puzzle where you can learn different colors. All right, boys and girls, what an awesome theme kit. So many items in this kit. Come on down to the library. Remember, just to ask any of the librarians and they can show you where the theme kits are. And you can take one of those home with you as long as you have a library card. All right, let's do one more book, shall we? This one is called How to Hug a Pufferfish. Now, if you know anything about pufferfish, they've got lots of little spikes on them. Look at this picture here. You are not going to want to hug that. So let's see if this book actually tells us how to hug a pufferfish. What do you think? All right. So, you want to hug a pufferfish. I don't. Who could blame you? Look at those big old bubbly eyes. And that gapped tooth grin. They are pretty cute, aren't they? The spotty skin like moldy bread with mustard. Could anything be cuter? There are so many reasons to give a pufferfish a hug. It could be that the pufferfish has just come back from a long trip. He just came through the kelp forest. Or maybe pufferfish has just won an award and you want to say congratulations. Or maybe pufferfish is your very best friend and you really want to show him you care. There's only one teeny tiny thing to consider. Uh-oh. Floop! Look what happened to pufferfish. He puffed up, didn't he? Never fear, pufferfish might welcome a hug from you under the right conditions. Now, first of all, pufferfish don't like surprises. Whoop! Look, he's coming up from behind. Whoop! Loud sounds can startle pufferfish. He's blowing in the conch shell. Poof! Don't tickle or poke a pufferfish in place of a hug. Floof. And if things go badly, give pufferfish some time to de-puff before trying again. Oh, pufferfish. Even if you love hugs, look at all the other critters giving hugs, pufferfish might prefer something different. Pufferfish would like to see you coming. Pufferfish would like to be asked first for a hug. May I give you a hug? Check one, yes or no. A pufferfish would like your hug to be slow and gentle. Look, they're about to touch fins. Pufferfish might even prefer a high tail or a shake fin instead. And you never know, pufferfish might show you a different way to say, I love you. See what pufferfish did? Made a heart with little critters inside. Now, if you want to hug a sea urchin, that's another whole story. Free hugs. I don't think we want to hug that either, do we? All right, so some of the ocean is filled with animals that we don't really want to touch, right? All right, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Storytime Express, and we've had an adventure under the sea with lots of cool fish. Thank you so much for watching. Join me again next time for another adventure here on the Storytime Express.